common question asked is, what has gender equality done for America? But to answer that question, we need to peruse into the past. The Victorian era sparked a movement for gender equality at a meeting in Seneca Falls, New York. At this meeting, 68 women and 32 men signed the Declaration of Sentiments, which would set the stage for the women's rights movement. This was one of the first seen strives for equal treatment of women and men, along with women's right to vote. Following this meeting, many more took place throughout the 1850s, which are known as the National Women's Rights Movement. In 1860, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton formed the National Women's Suffrage Association, whose primary goal was to achieve the right for women to vote, but to do this, they would have to have Congress pass an amendment which put it into the Constitution. After a few months, the National Women's Suffrage Association had its first real breakthrough, with Wyoming passing the first women's suffrage law on December 10th. Within a year, women are serving on juries. Susan B. Anthony shows women's suffrage in a trial against her in the Circuit Court of the United States for the Northern District of New York for illegal voting. The court asks why Miss Anthony should not be persecuted. Miss Anthony answered she had a great many things to say, and declared that in her trial every principle of justice had been violated, that every right had been denied, that she had had no trial by her peers, that the court and the jurors were her political superiors and not her peers, and announced her determination to continue her labors until equality was obtained, and was proceeding to discuss the question involved in the case when she was interrupted by the court with the remark that these questions could not be reviewed. Miss Anthony replied she wished it fully understood that she had asked no clemency for the court, that she desired and demanded the full rigor of law. Judge Hunt then said, "The judge of the court is that you pay a fine of $100 and the cost of the prosecution," and immediately added, "There is no order that you can stand committed until the fine is paid." In the year of 1990, in an attempt to make the women's suffrage movement more forceful, the National Women's Suffrage Association and the American Women's Suffrage Association combined to make the National American Women's Suffrage Association, which fought state by state to obtain voting rights for women. Although the Victorian era was a time period of great attempts for gender equality, the following years preceding it would prove more valuable to actual change in America.
The Progressive Era, or the 1890s to the 1920s, represents a time period when the main goal for women was to achieve the same rights as men. Although Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah all had already given up women the right to vote, there was still a ton left to do before gender equality would be remotely close in America. During this period, women didn't just work for the right to vote, but they also worked for the board-based economic and political equality along with the social reforms. Women progressively began to work in industry and business, but men were still getting better jobs at the time. Between 1880s and 1910, the number of women who were working in the United States went from 2.6 million to 7.8 million. At the turning of the century, 60% of women were employed as domestic servants, and women also gained the right to control their earnings, own property, and in the case of divorce, take custody of their children. Women also created clubs in towns and cities that would promote suffrage between schools, child labor laws, women in unions, and the prohibition of liquor. It wasn't until World War I, which was seen as the first total war, that women really got the chance to prove themselves in the workforce, while men were overseas fighting. Women would be encouraged to take the wartime jobs in defense industry. The common saying, "We can do it," by J. Howard Miller, was used to motivate women to help America in the time of need. It wasn't until the year of 1919 the women would achieve their goal since the beginning of the Victorian era to get the right to vote and to have equal rights as men, given in the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment marks maybe the biggest achievement of the Progressive Era because of its milestone that is always looked back on when gender equality is being looked at.